All right, everyone. So let's slowly get started. I think people are still joining, but let's get going. So we're welcome to another instance of VQMS. We're very happy to have Yewon and team with us today who present to us a paper about provision of sustainability claims and evidence from CPG goods. This is with Kristina Brecko. We have also a great lineup of panelists for you today. So hope you enjoy the discussion. Yewon, you can plan to go for around 45 minutes to an hour. If you want to build more time till then for questions, feel free to go short and have a discussion. If not, just feel free to stop and have questions in the meantime. Then for people who want to join afterwards, after an hour, we'll have a more informal discussion afterwards. For the attendees, please post your questions to Q&A and then we'll translate it to Yewon. If you have some comments you want to jump in, just feel free to raise your hand. We'll try to promote you. And of course, please stay afterwards for the discussion if you'd like, and then just join us to discuss the paper. Yewon, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Andre, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here and then inviting me for this great opportunity. My name is Yewon, came from Stanford GSB. As Andre already introduced, I'll be talking about this work in progress that I'm co-authoring with Kristina Brecko at Rochester. Unfortunately, she won't be able to join today, but I'll try to be a good representative of this project and then, get all the good feedback from you all. So we see a lot of media coverage and marketing efforts that kind of focus on these recent rise of firm sustainability investment through their product design and packaging. So I just collected some of examples here. So you can see that a lot of firms, the CPG brands, are communicating their sustainability efforts through this, through their product design or through information on their product label and packaging. So it's great that we see a lot of firms like investing on these great causes. That's great. However, it is also found that there are a lot of debates on whether or not these sustainable practices by firms are real, and that it causes this great fear of greenwashing. And then I've collected some of examples here that suggest that these CPG brands, were well-known brands in other categories, are caught because of their seemingly misleading or explicitly misleading sustainability claims. And then one of the survey results by Statista in 2021 suggests that 26% of these consumer participants think that sustainable is just being a term that companies use to sell their products at higher price. So although we're seeing a lot of efforts here, not sure whether or not it's working effectively. So this has caught policymakers' attention quite a bit. And then recently, EU just made this announcement that they have drafted plans to require companies to back up green claims about their products with evidence to fight against this idea of greenwashing and misleading advertisements. But for this type of regulation to be effective and relevant, it is important to have some understanding of what firms are currently doing when it comes to claim provision and whether consumers actually believe in those claims provision. So if one of those links are missing, then probably all kinds of regulations might incur more costs than benefit through actual market improvement. So our research questions are basically twofold. One, which firms choose to provide sustainability claims in this world where everything is still voluntary? So more specifically, we're investigating what characteristics of the firms are there that choose to provide products with sustainability claims. And second, we also investigate, given those firms' characteristics, when do those firms choose to provide sustainability claims? And then we want to understand, are these decisions driven by the demand for sustainability or by other economic forces within the specific product market? So here we conduct a large-scale empirical study on the provision of sustainability claims on CPG labels, which is arguably one of the most prominent sustainable practices in the CPG market. So we summarize our contributions to be threefold. First, this paper documents how and why firms provide sustainability claims to begin with. Although we see this growing literature on sustainability and consumer preferences for sustainability, there has been still little empirical research on how and why firms provide sustainability claims. So here again, we use this large scale field data across different product markets or modules. And we describe descriptively and also having some causal analysis later on, which firms provide sustainability claims, and then when they do so, how they provide such claims. So here, our data actually allow us to distinguish whether or not those claims are first-party generated without any further evidence, or third-party certified using this external certifiers. And we observe this heterogeneity in claim provision across markets, even within a single brand. And this part will become more straightforward when I show you this descriptive evidence. But just to give you a little teaser, even when we focus on a single brand like Dove, for example, that produces multiple different products across different product markets, we see that Dove chooses to provide sustainability claims in shampoo categories, whereas it chooses not to provide any sustainability claims in deodorant categories. So this kind of underlying differences across their claim provision across different product markets suggests that there are some strategic underlying incentives going on. And yes.
If I can interrupt quickly, just to clarify, are you thinking of this kind of as an equilibrium standpoint, or are you thinking this is, because I think of these green claims as still evolving. Firms are changing this, they're removing some claims, putting some new claims. Should we think of this as a dynamic thing that keeps changing, or should we think as this is the given set and we're going to examine that?
Yes, thank you for that question. So right now we're positioning this paper to be just a first step descriptive paper, and then we're going to investigate more equilibrium type of concept later on with our follow-up paper, where we are aiming to write a structural model and then run some counterfactual exercises on potential regulations. So long story short, this will be a purely descriptive paper, but we do document this over time evolution of what firms are doing. So our data covers from 2012 to 2020, and then even within those 9 years, we see some evolution of what firms are doing. So yes. And yeah, Yura?
Also, just clarifying question, should I be thinking about the provision of these labels as having the same cost across different categories? Like, would cost be a factor? Just thinking about your example of the deodorants and shampoos or something like that, was that just a purely strategic thing, or there's also something that is correlated with the cost of providing that type of label?
Yeah, thanks for the question too. So we don't have explicit data on the cost of providing each different claim, but we do. I mean, I think I'll get back to your question later when I show you some descriptive analysis. But we try to control for as many fixed effects as we can afford to make sure that this cost part is it's to some extent absorbed. And after that, we still see some discrepancy across product markets. But yeah, I'm happy to get back to your question if you find it unclear when I introduce these regression results. Yes, so to continue, we specifically, we study these firm decisions in 2 different layers. So first, we try to look at whether these product investment decisions by these firms have any systematic relationship with market conditions like demand or other economic forces by running this US product market level analysis. So here we're not looking at any store level analysis. We're looking at whether these firms are incentivized to provide this new additional UPCs or items with claims based on the market condition they're facing aggregately. And then the second layer we can think about is the strategic decision around distribution. So there, I think our store level analysis or zip level analysis might inform us a little bit, because given that I already produced this UPC, where to distribute these stores can be another strategic layer to that will govern the provision of sustainability claims. So we will discuss these 2 layers of decisions through 2 levels of analysis.
Yewon,
yes.
Is it safe to assume that if a product is not making a claim, it's because it can't make the claim, in that it doesn't have or the claim's vague enough that anyone could make the claim? You haven't shown us example of that yet, so you can punt if you want, but I'm just thinking, like, would the shampoo have to basically be reformulated to make the particular claim that a competitor is making? Or would they ever choose to withhold a claim if they could make it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Of course, product label is still like a constrained space, so you cannot make every single claim, even if you make all these efforts. But we're assuming that the likelihood of providing any of those claims is weekly increasing with the actual investment in those claims. So again, as you said, some of the cases might occur where these claims are not visible to consumers, although firms are actually making those types of investment. But we think that the likelihood of having that visible on product label is weekly increasing.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Hi, Yewon.
Yes, Tom.
Quick question. So to what degree the firm's decisions to make sustainability claims is triggered by a new market entrant who tries to break into the market by making a sustainability claim?
I will get back to that point when I show you some descriptive slides. So to continue, our second kind of contribution would be about documenting these consumers' revealed preferences for sustainability. And I know that Brian and all these amazing researchers who are working on this topic of sustainability have been investigating on this issue. So this literature is growing, but still stays quite small. So we aim to contribute to this literature on consumers' revealed preference for sustainability, not necessarily within the lab setting. In addition to consumer level heterogeneity when it comes to sustainability preference, we also aim to focus on preference heterogeneity across different causes. So what I mean by cause here is different literally causes of claims that these sustainability claims can make. So you can think of animal welfare as one specific cause, and then environmental sustainability as another specific cause that these claims can represent. On top of that, we also have data on these different sources of claims, i.e. whether or not these claims are certified or not. So we will be able to offer some richer narratives around whether consumers actually differentiate these claims based on these different causes or different sources. And finally, as I mentioned in the motivation part, this paper has implications on market interventions for sustainability. So as I said, we believe that the need for interventions actually depends on A, what firms are right now doing, and then B, consumers' responses to such behavior. So we aim to provide information on both through this large-scale empirical study. So to give you a high-level summary of findings, we do find that provision and as well as distribution of these sustainable products are correlated with market concentration and some elements of product market specific demand for sustainability. I'll mention the second part in the next slide. I'll focus on the first aspect, the relationship between market concentration and then sustainability claim provision. So we find that market concentration predicts many decisions that firms make around sustainability claim provisions, including the likelihood of producing products with claims to begin with, and then likelihood of getting claims certified conditional on having those claims on their products, as well as this price premium for products with claims or their distribution decision of these UPCs with specific claims. So and then all these patterns are robust even when we take into account this brand fixed effect, where if we run this analysis only within any single brand that covers multiple different product markets. And this suggests that firms are actually making strategic choices when they make these claims and distribute these claims. So our second set of findings suggests that these firms' behavior are also correlated with product market specific demand elements. But interestingly, we find that their claim provision decisions are not correlated with the average demand for sustainability claims in any given product market or average price elasticity of demand in any given market. What we find as a correlation between demand and provision, though, is that claim provision is correlated with the price elasticity of sustainable consumers in a specific product market. So what I mean by that is that those the claims are more provided in those categories, in those product categories where sustainable consumers with higher preference for sustainability are also less price elastic. So there seem to be some strategic decisions going on based on the observed price elasticity of that customer segment that these firms are targeting. So here's a brief roadmap. So I'm going to discuss about the data part a little bit, and then I will discuss our analysis and results in two parts, one supply side and then second demand side, and then I'll wrap up with conclusion and future steps.
Sorry, Yewon, just to clarify,
Yes.
you mentioned I guess that's a good time because it's a question.
Yes.
You mentioned price inelastic consumers. These are consumers that are price inelastic with respect to sustainability claims. So they just value it a lot, or they just price inelastic in general. So there is some market power in the category.
Thank you for pointing that out because we actually estimate both price elasticity separately. So we estimate both price coefficients just for sustainable products and price elasticity for non-sustainable products, and then both are correlated with firms' claim provision. I'll elaborate that in a later slide. Yes.
And just a small comment on this. Do you know something about demographics? So I think in some of my work, what I'm finding is, okay, sustainability, price elasticity of sustainable products is related with income, which is an obvious. So do you do something with respect to another dimension of heterogeneity on the demand side?
Yes, so we address that type of heterogeneity by recovering store level estimates of price elasticity and demand. So we run separate regression for each store. So assuming that each store faces different types of demographics, we just recover those estimates separately and then use that to study more of this heterogeneity.
So you can map a store to, okay, this is a richer, a region with richer people and so on. So that's the way you do things.
Yes. So we haven't really incorporated any explicit demographics data to run an analysis, but we can do that by matching each store's ZIP3 code and then some census demographics.
Thank you.
Okay, if I don't have any questions, I'll move on. So we mainly use two sources of data, and then many of you will be familiar with the first source, which is Nielsen RMS. So this is weekly store UPC level panel data. And then again, we're using this data from 2012 to 2020 because the second data source is constrained within these years. So the second data that is the main meat part of our data analysis is coming from this company called Label Insight, and now it is acquired by Nielsen, so they're under the same Nielsen umbrella. And then they have this detailed information at the UPC level, which information exists on the product label. And then what I mean by cross-sectional here is that unfortunately, they sort of overwrite all these product labels of any given UPC whenever there is any change on product label of that given UPC. So the only version of product label data I have is the most up-to-date, recently updated product label for that given UPC. However, still, this data is amazing in a sense that it gives us really detailed information, not just on sustainability claims, but also ingredients and all types of other marketing messages that exist as text or image on packaging. So I'll dig into these sources a bit more. So we focus on health and beauty care department. And then within that department, we focus on these 4 product groups. And then this is kind of a terminology thing, but Nielsen has their own categorization of these different product categories, a different hierarchy. So department is the highest layer. Under that, there are product groups, which includes cosmetics, deodorant, hair care, and skincare preparations in my analysis. And then under that, we have the finest product category label called product modules. And then when I say market, moving forward, I will be referring to product modules specifically. So within cosmetics, for example, we have 15 different product modules ranging from mascara, lipsticks, and things like that. And when it comes to hair care, we have shampoo, conditioners, hairspray, you name it. So in total, we're now investigating 40 different product modules from 2012 to 2020. And then we're in the progress of adding this additional product group, oral hygiene, in the future. So oral hygiene meaning like toothpaste and things like that. So although Label Insight gives us this really detailed information, it doesn't cover the entire universe of UPCs that appear in the RMS data. So here you can see that how many UPCs within that appear in the RMS are also covered by this Label Insight data. And then you see that the coverage is actually ranging from a little more than 50% all the way up to 85%, depending on quantity sold and sales. And we haven't really done the representativeness check, but we hope that this high level of coverage will give us some comprehensive landscape of what the product labels are communicating, despite some lack of coverage in certain categories. So Label Insight have already they've already coded these different types of claims based on their own categorization. So within those sustainability claims, they categorized 6 different causes, ranging from animal welfare to social responsibility to sustainable resource management. And within each category or cause of claims, they also labeled different individual claims that appear frequently in any of these product labels. So when I talk about animal welfare, for example, there are 8 different claims that are pre-codified by Label Insight, and those include animal welfare approved or cage-free, farm-raised, free-range, you name it. So since we're not talking about food category here, most of our animal welfare claims will be around humane, which means no animal testing. But you can also see that when it comes to sustainable packaging, you see that the data company already have categorized different content of claims ranging from less packaging to recyclable to recycled packaging. So we'll be leveraging this detailed information to analyze to make analysis. So before we run to the supply side analysis, any questions about the data? Cool, okay. So let's move on to the supply side analysis. So again, as I briefly mentioned, we will be running these 2 levels of analysis to address 2 layers of strategic decisions that can be made by firm. One will be market level analysis, which will reflect firms' decisions on whether or not to invest in providing sustainable UPCs in any product module in any given year. And then the second layer, which is supported by store level analysis, will address whether firms strategically choose to distribute any of these sustainable UPCs based on the local competition they're facing in those areas. So we will first start with the market level analysis with module year or product market year as our unit of observation. So before I show you multiple pretty graphs, I'll first define what brand size means in this context. So when I say brand size, it usually talks about the distribution coverage. So how I calculate the distribution coverage is the following. For each brand, let's say Dove, within each product market, let's say deodorants, I calculate what share of stores are there that have positive sales of that brand's products. So again, Nielsen RMS does not really give us explicit data on the product availability, but we can infer this product availability or brand availability within any given store from this positive sales occurring in that store. So that's what I use to create this brand size variable. So basically brand size means distribution coverage in this sense. The first descriptives is following. So we first try to address which firms invest in providing sustainability claims at the module level, at the market level to begin with. And then here I plot this relationship between the number of unique UPCs, the share of unique UPCs with claims, binned by this brand size quartiles. So what you see across different product groups, like cosmetic, deodorant, hair care, and skincare, you consistently observe that larger brands with larger distribution coverage, they produce less claims, less UPCs with sustainability compared to the smaller distribution coverage brand across different product markets. So this negative correlation between brand size and the production of sustainable UPCs is consistent across these different product groups. And you may think that, oh, maybe that's because these larger brands are sort of incumbents who have been around for a while, so they haven't really updated their UPCs with this new sustainability claims. So I checked whether or not the same pattern holds when I only focused on those new UPCs, new products that are launched every year by these different firms. And then I observed the exact same pattern. Even if I only focus on those new UPCs, these larger brands tend to put less claims on their product labels compared to these smaller brands that enter that launch any new UPC. So I think this might answer, I think, Tong's question previously. So you talked about whether these entrants are making any different choices when it comes to claim provision. And yes, you're right. So you see that smaller brands tend to cover themselves more with these different claims.
But there could still be an incumbent advantage in a sense that you're just looking at the new UPCs, but not necessarily controlling for the brand umbrella, right? Like it could be a very well-known brand that is just producing new UPCs and they could still benefit.
Right. So pairing these, so I'm pairing these two descriptives together. So one is if I look at existing products, these large brands like Dove, I don't want to kind of accuse Dove here, but let's say Dove is kind of representative large brand here. Dove tends to have fewer UPCs with these claims to begin with. And when they introduce new UPCs, they put less claims on those new UPCs as well. So
they could still, what I'm getting at is that they could still have this kind of incumbency advantage because of their brand name, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then I think that's touching the crux of our supply side analysis results. So we're looking at their decision based on how much competition they're facing in that given market. And we see some systematic relationship there. So I'll get back to that point in a minute.
Sorry, can I
yes.
clarify what, so by share of UPCs, you mean how many, maybe you defined it before and I missed it, but like it's how many of the existing UPCs for the brand have the claims?
Yes, exactly.
One way to think about this result is very large brands have a very long product line, and then some people have out sustainable products, some people don't. And so for large brands, they might just have a lot of products which are not tailored toward the sustainable.
Right. So maybe this will partly answer your question. I did the same analysis. I plotted the same graph using count of UPCs instead of share of UPCs. And then the absolute count of those UPCs with claims is lower for larger brands than those count of UPCs from smaller brands. So, and even in an absolute level, these larger brands are producing fewer UPCs with claims. And then, as you said, maybe it's because their own customers like don't really care about sustainability and things like that. But I think that itself is an observation that we are finding. Oops. And another descriptive that makes us believe that there is some strategic decisions going on here is that we see this heterogeneity in investment in claims, even within brand that produces different products across different product modules. So let me explain what this graph means. So I am collecting only those brands that cover multiple product markets, like five plus product markets. So just like Dove, that produces not just deodorant, but also shampoo, conditioners, body wash, and things like that. So only taking into account those brands that cover multiple product markets, I look at what the share of UPCs, sustainable UPCs, within that product module that this brand is manufacturing. So if Dove is producing 50% of UPCs within deodorant category to be sustainable, then that's going to be one data point. And then if the same Dove brand is producing only 20% of sustainable UPCs in their shampoo category, that'll be another data point. So I'm looking at how widely dispersed this sustainable UPC provision within brand across different modules that we can find. So again, to reiterate, what this graph shows is that even when we fix one given brand that covers multiple different product markets, we see that their provision of claims vary across product modules. So yes.
Yeah, Yewon, I feel like is this kind of correlated with cost? Just like what you were suggested early on, probably the cost of making a sustainability claim for shampoo would be much higher than the cost of making the same sustainability claim for deodorant. And the cost doesn't have to only be about the production cost. It could also be about your sustainability claim could imply something that is conflicting with the current product benefit claims. For example, for a deodorant, you may expect the effectiveness of the deodorant vary by the degree of chemicals, certain chemicals they have. And that would conflict with sustainability claim by construction.
Yes, I do agree. So two thoughts. So since we are going to look at their decisions in relation to market concentration or competition, I think our finding that's consistent, that keeps suggesting that there is a systematic correlation between market concentration and this sustainability provision. If your concern is to explain that pattern fully, then we should also assume that HHI, or market concentration index, is also systematically correlated with the cost of sustainability provision. Maybe if that's the case, we're confounding some things, but after taking into account product module fixed effect or any kind of fixed effects that can sort of absorb at least mean level difference across different modules when it comes to cost of sustainability provision, we still see some remaining residual relationship between market concentration and firms' decisions. But yes, long story short, we don't have any cost data at this point. And then if this may hurt our validity of the analysis results, then we will think about how to augment that source.
Just quickly, it would be interesting to just see the exact same graph with heterogeneity within product module. So now you go, I think that will address in some part the cost story, that you go within a product module where you think the cost is more homogeneous. And if you still see a lot of heterogeneity, then that'd be interesting. So do they offer kind of the green shampoo versus the normal shampoo?
Yeah, that's a great comment too. So I think this graph partly addresses that by dividing different UPCs based on product groups. But yes, even if I can produce the same kind of graph within product module, then I think it'll address some of your points, both Tong and Sebastian.
Yeah, I'll just add in category fixed effects would do the same trick. So it's
yes. So now we're trying to understand what the source of this variation is, like where this variation is coming from, and then we are trying to link that with these market level concentration using our HHI index. So here, since we're still at the market level analysis, we are constructing HHI to be market year specific. So we have these 4 product groups, 40 market modules for 9 years. So we will be constructing 40 times 9 different HHI index for for different modules. And then we will run this regression to check whether HHI at any given year in that product module is correlated with the likelihood of claim provision in that module. And here's some descriptive. So here, this is not regression. I'm just like plotting the scatter plot. On the x-axis, I put the share of sustainable UPCs within that product module. So how likely each individual UPC in that product module is to have any sustainable claims. And then on y-axis, I put this HHI, module year specific HHI. So we see this negative correlation, which suggests that in the more concentrated product market, the smaller number of or share of unique UPCs are provided with sustainability claims. And I plot the same thing, dividing modules to be two different categories, like large product modules with larger number of quantities sold versus smaller product modules. And even when I take these two into two different categories, I still see this robust negative correlation between HHI and then the provision of claims through UPCs. And then here I run the analysis, and then going back to Andre's comment, here we control for many different fixed effects. So we control for group times year fixed effects, as well as brand fixed effects in our second specification. And here our Y variable is whether or not that individual UPC has any claim. And then our key explanatory variable is this HHI that we created for that module year. So again, to reiterate, we find this evidence that the more concentrated the product market or module is, the less likely any UPC has any sustainability claim. So yeah, here, yes.
Sorry. So I think the question I have is, so you said HHI is your explanatory variable. So I think that's kind of what prompts this question. So you can imagine, so again, with Dove, right? You can imagine this is a product that's been in the market for a really, really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it might have has its own differentiation, right? So it's not, sustainability might not have been the reason why Dove's become like a market leader.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore these markets are highly concentrated. So it has something that's established, people want it, and therefore it doesn't make sense for it to add another claim at this point because there will be like really little. So it's again, this is again going back to this equilibrium point, right? So there's a reason Dove is kind of the leader in whatever market it is in. So for a new entrant to come in, they will have to make these. So again, so imagine like a category, not a UPC, but a category which is super new. If you see a new category, then kind of that's just evolving, you might see many more products having these kinds of claims. So this is kind of, again, sustainability is such a new thing. I don't know if that the question makes sense or the comment makes sense. So it's not, you can't say that the big players are not making these claims, which I think is what you're trying to say here, because they already have other differentiating things that they've already made and they're already successful making those claims.
So in this particular regression, I'm not talking about whether these larger brands are systematically providing less claims. I mean, that is actually true. But here, what I'm saying is that even when I control for brand fixed effect, so taking out the average likelihood providing any sustainable claims at the Dove level, their strategic decision of providing such claims in different product modules varies based on the competition that each module faces. So as you said, Dove has been big for a long time, and then their likelihood of providing any sustainability claim, the baseline likelihood is very low. But when they choose to introduce sustainability claims, they choose to do so only when that product market faces high competition. So that's why I'm saying that these sustainability provisions seems to be a strategic decision made by firm based on the competition level they observe within that product module.
Right, but imagine a situation where, say, let's say Dove is the only player, right? So the market concentration is really, really high. So the so this
high.
Yeah, so so there's only one firm. Imagine the exchange is one firm. If there's only one firm, then you will. There's a reason there's only one firm, right? That's kind of what I'm getting. What is that reason? It's that it's made a claim that's what consumers care about. So there is no reason for it to introduce a new claim. Does that make sense? So I'm saying the HHI itself is kind of endogenous in the setting, right? Therefore, there is no need to make those other claims.
I see your point. I see your point. And then my sort of, maybe if I can do this like over time analysis, maybe I can address your concern a little bit. So given any specific, like conditional on any specific product module, maybe if I can track that their over time HHI evolution is somehow correlated with the sustainability provision, it's still like, I agree that it's an equilibrium concept. So we have to think about how to kind of determine the direction of causality there, but still, I think that might address some of your questions.
So my question is about, I was wondering if you could use in any way the geographic variation in market shares to potentially isolate within category kind of relationship. And the reason is that I'm worried there's something systematic, similar to what Anita was talking, something systematic within the category, and that could be cost issues, it could be unobserved things that could be correlated with both.
Yes, I think I do some of that analysis in the store level analysis later on, but I haven't done that for every single research question that I'm addressing here. So yeah, thanks for the comment. I think I can definitely do that. And then I'll explain when I introduce later analysis, which part is kind of linked to what you just suggested.
I don't know to what extent it might be helpful, but there is an empirical regularity that the market leaders flip across different retailers, right? Because there's the retailer manufacturer relationship. So I wonder to what extent that could be utilized to look into this.
Yes, I think that's a great point. Thank you. So we looked at whether this likelihood of providing any sustainability claims in relation to this market level HHI. Now we consider whether these firms choose the source of claims, i.e. whether or not these claims being certified or not, also based on this market level competition. And here we did some manual work to find out whether or not each claim is certified. So there are some measurement errors going on here. So we're in the process of augmenting our data to become more precise. But basically, we can divide these different claims that are already pre-codified by Label Insight into three buckets. One is those claims that we know for sure that are made without any certification. So, for example, animal welfare / vegetarian fed, there is no certifier that certifies whether or not this product is made out of like cattle that are vegetarian fed for something. So we can kind of put those into first party claims. And then we can do the same thing for third party claims. So we can see, Rainforest Alliance certified or FSC certified, all these claims, and then we can put those as third party claims. And then we are left with some claims in between that we are not sure at this point whether or not this individual claim on product label is certified or not. So those we just like put everything as mixed party claims. And we run regression to see whether the likelihood of having any first party claims or third party claims differ across different market competition levels. And here's the finding. So when we run this regression, the same regression with 0,1 y variable that suggests whether or not, the 0,1 variable that suggests whether or not this UPC has first party claims or mixed for certified claims, we keep seeing this consistent finding that conditional on having any claim, UPCs are more likely to have first party claims in a more concentrated market. So in other words, those UPCs conditional on having any claim, their claims are more likely to be certified when those UPCs enter this more competitive market. So here we not only find the difference in likelihood of provision across different product markets in relation to market concentration, but we also see this additional evidence that firms seem to choose different sources of claims being certified or not based on the market competition that they're facing.
Yewon, can you help me think through, like, what does it mean to even have a procedure where something is certified? So like in any module, in any category, there is opportunity to certify these claims, or it's only more established product categories where there is even something to certify? Like, I guess I just don't know enough about details of institutions here, but.
Right. So, for example, when it comes to no animal testing, there are some big certifiers that gives you this mark that says, oh, this is certified by PETA, that this product has not gone through any animal testing. And the same product can make the same claim, no animal testing, without that third-party certification. So that is the variation that I'm talking about. And then, did that answer your question? But maybe I misunderstood your question, or.
Yeah, no, and that helps. But I guess what I'm getting at, I'm just trying to think through how much this can be explained by more established industries where I expect them to have a lower HHI because they're older, there is more differentiated products, there is more. They just have like already established routine to certify some of the things. Maybe like just to compare it all the. So if somehow there is a way to say that all these products and all these categories can be certified, and so it's a choice of its firm. The cost of certification is the same across all these modules, and the firm not to do like first. So if I get it correctly, that the third-party certification is just more costly signal. It's a costly way to. Yeah.
I see your point. I think some claims would have lived. So, for example, like sustainable packaging, like we all know that most CPG products can have sustainable packaging. And then for that specific aspect, for that specific claim, I don't think there is any difference when it comes to the cost of getting those claims to be certified, like FSC certified or Rainforest Alliance certified. Like there are some big players that certify whether or not this packaging is environmental friendly. And I think that is kind of, yeah, I think that holds consistently across all product modules, regardless of the age of the product module.
Yeah, so I think that's what I'm asking for. Like, if most of these are something like this, will be great to confirm that that's still there.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So I think this is kind of relevant to what we just discussed, but since we have some measurement error here, I also did some additional robustness check by collecting data on whether or not each product label mentions these biggest certifiers in any given claim causes. So when it comes to animal welfare, again, there are several big certifiers, PETA and then Cruelty Free International. So we do some text analysis to see whether those keywords appear on product label, and then see, given all these product labels that claim something about animal welfare, something about no animal testing, what is the likelihood of having those big certifiers' name appearing on that product label in relation to HHI? So this is sort of the same analysis, but doing some robustness check. And here we confirm that even within the same cause, the likelihood of having these major certifiers' name appearing on product label is systematically negatively correlated with market level HHI, suggesting that if the market is more concentrated, the less likely these UPCs rely on these major certifiers to support their claim. So one last piece that I want to share with you about the supply side, and then, now it's only, I have only 10 minutes, although I have a lot of slides about demand slides, so I'll try to be fast. So here we wanted to, we got a lot of feedback on, okay, so how should we really perceive sustainability to begin with? Like, is it really like a vertical quality, or is it like a horizontal feature? Like, do you see any systematic differences in sustainability claim provision compared to some other types of horizontal differentiation or other types of non-sustainability claim provision? So we did analysis by using these several horizontally different features and this one specific non-sustainable claims called aluminum free. So this one keeps appearing in the deodorant category specifically, and this is not related to sustainability, but is one of the claims that many UPCs in the deodorant category are using. So we did the exact same analysis using market level HHI and the likelihood of having any of these claims or ingredients and see whether they show the same pattern that we see in the sustainability claim. And here's the results. So the very last cell in the bottom shows the same graph that I showed you before, the relationship between the unique, the share of UPCs with claims and HHI. And then all the other cells show these other features that we are using for comparison purposes. So here again, and then aluminum free, we only have small number of modules here because, I mean, that claim is basically observed only mostly within deodorant category. So that's that. But if charcoal as an element is being marketed as their horizontally feature, or marketed as their horizontal feature or not, whether lavender is being used like that or not, those likelihoods are not negatively correlated with market concentration. So the takeaway from this is that, at least based on our kind of handful collected claim and ingredient comparison, it seems like sustainability claims are being decided a little differently by firms compared to all these other decisions around horizontal differentiation. And then we confirmed the same analysis using more fixed effects and controls in the regression format. And then the only regression that shows the significant negative coefficient for HHI is the sustainability claims. No other horizontally different features show the same patterns here. So the takeaway from here is that other horizontal features show a different pattern. Many of them actually show positive and significant correlation with market concentration. So here, sustainability claims are doing something differently at the market level. And we are still trying to understand what the underlying story behind that should be. So now we are moving to store level analysis. And then I'll try to wrap up this part rather quickly so that at least we can touch some demand analysis results. So here we are defining local level concentration, again, using the same HHI, but using zip level market share. So the bottom graph shows the comparison between the module level HHI, the market level HHI I created for the deodorant group. And then on top of that, I plot the distribution of the zip code level HHI. So they should have more or less similar distributions, but then we see a lot more variations at this local level concentration. And then this is what we are using to see whether this local level concentration affects firms' distribution decisions of these UPCs. We are going to run the same exact analysis, but using store level zip level HHI and then store level characteristics. And then we also confirm that conditional on being from these brands that have at least one unique sustainable UPCs, these sustainable UPCs are more likely to be distributed in a less concentrated local market. So not just the provision of sustainability claims are related to this market level competition, but their distribution decision, given the production of those UPCs, is also correlated with market concentration.
Sorry, Yewon, very quick
Yes.
clarification from the Q&A about this slide. What are the UPC level controls?
I include the number of ingredients, the size of the product, and then sometimes I also put the first 3 ingredients fixed effects. So those are the key UPC level controls.
Thank you.
And this is sort of this is kind of like a preliminary stage analysis, and then price is always kind of a tricky construct because an equilibrium product. But here we are also kind of interested in whether these UPCs are charged, sustainable UPCs are charged at a higher price point if they are facing low level of local competition, as well as if they are from these large incumbent brands that already have this huge market power. So here, the key variables we are looking into is, first of all, whether or not these sustainable UPCs are charged at higher prices on average. So that's going to be on my A1, the first coefficient. And then I interact that whether or not claim exists on that product with some other HHI or brand size characteristics. So here the goal is, again, to see whether or not there is any sustainable product price premium to begin with, and B, if that premium exists, whether or not that premium is correlated with some market level competition or firm characteristics. And here, just one thing I wanted to note is that the takeaway from this regression is that, first of all, sustainable products in these product group, in this deodorant group at least, we see that these sustainable products are they charge higher prices on average compared to non-sustainable products. And then that holds when we even take into account brand fixed effects and other types of fixed effects.
I know you acknowledge this by
Yes.
saying that this is, very difficult from the equilibrium perspective, but at least one metric of HHI I can think could be seen as a function of almost price directly. If you think about, let's say, learner's index being inverse to the price elasticity, right? So the having these variables both on the left and the right hand side worries me a little bit, but I think you're doing like exploratory stuff here.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I also had the same kind of feeling, like hunch, like I am not sure how robust this analysis is, but at least like I saw many news articles that talk about these, green premia. That has been one of the things that both consumers and policymakers have been talking about. So I just wanted to have some analysis on that. But I think it'll be great if we can talk offline to brainstorm how to make this analysis more concrete. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. So I only have 3 minutes. So the demand side has a lot of interesting stuff, but let me just quickly go to some of the key graphs I wanted to show you. So here, let's see. So I will show you the specification first. We are running this demand side estimation by using this weekly sales, log weekly sales as our Y variable. And then going back to Andre's point, we are estimating price elasticities for sustainable products and non-sustainable products separately. So beta and delta will be recovered separately for each regression. And then we also take into account a lot of fixed effects to make sure that we alleviate some of the most obvious endogeneity concerns. But some endogeneity concerns, of course, may rise because of this emitted variable bias. And then we do not observe all kinds of product features that may have systematic correlation with the sustainability claims. And if those features exist, even after taking into account this brand fixed effect and ingredient fixed effect, let's say like sustainable looking packaging or things like that, like green color or something like that, we kind of include that as our sustainability demand coefficient. I have 1 minute. I don't know how to wrap up this, but so here, let me first show you that after controlling for brand formulation fixed effects, we do see that the average demand for sustainability is mostly positive for many of these different product modules, although we do see a handful of product modules that have seemingly negative preference for sustainability. So that's one thing. And interestingly and importantly, we do not see any systematic correlation whatsoever between that module level provision of sustainable UPCs on the x-axis and the module level sustainable demand coefficient on the y-axis. So here I'm comparing whether the average demand for sustainability in that specific product module is correlated with firms' provision of those sustainable UPCs. And at least in this analysis, we don't see any systematic correlation. I will wrap up. I will kind of introduce what we are doing with store level demand analysis, and then I'll wrap up. So here, so far the demand specification I've told you about is at the module level, right? But then here we are recovering the store level estimates. This goes back to Sebastian's point. So we are running this zip level regressions following Hitch et al. 2021 QME paper, and then we recover this store specific sustainability demand coefficient, sustainability price elasticity coefficients, and things like that. So what we have after this analysis is these large vector of these different store level coefficients, which can be used as our data to analyze whether these demand level estimates are systematically correlated with claim provision or distribution behavior. And this was what I mentioned early on as my summary of findings. So here, I'll stay a bit longer to chat about what this graph means. But the main takeaway from here is that those product modules where sustainable consumers are also less price elastic, those modules have these sustainable UPCs being provided by a lot of firms. I know this is a lot of information to just deliver in 10 seconds, so I'll just leave the slide here and then happy to chat about this more offline. So high-level summary of findings. Hopefully I persuaded you today that firms' voluntary provision of these claims is strongly correlated with market concentration and brand size, but is not really correlated with this average demand for sustainability or price in the market. And then we do believe that these findings can inform policymakers about which firms provide which types of claims in which market. And then we're preparing another follow-up paper that kind of investigates in this more kind of equilibrium construct and then the effects of potential regulations through counterfactual exercises. So this kind of goes back to Anita's point early on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yewon, and thank you for all the questions to panelists and the audience. We'll finish the formal part of the talk at this stage, but feel free to stick around. And again, raise your hand, pin us if you want to join the discussion and ask Yewon's questions afterwards. Let me quickly kick off with two remaining questions in the Q&A. One is from Jun Wee on back when you talked about new UPCs introduced. How can we separate out if it's actually a new product launches, so just repackaging? And he's saying that a lot of the CPGs might be repackaging and creating new UPC. What is this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think at this point, we are not particularly decomposing when we say product investment, whether or not that investment comes from just purely repackaging or just innovating the underlying product specification thoroughly. To us, those two are the same. So when firms make any fundamental changes about the product, let's say just about the packaging, just about the information that is delivered for packaging, or they renovate the underlying specification, to us, that's the same. So that's one level, one higher level of strategic decision. And then again, the lower level of strategic decision would be given that UPC, given that new UPC through new packaging or through new product ingredients, how those UPCs are distributed. Hopefully that answered that question.
Right, got it. And then another quick question from the Q&A is about back to the correlation of and sustainability claims. How much as the ease of product innovation can be driving both of them? And so this will be a lot of entrant, low concentration, and high sustainability.
Yes, I think so. In that market level analysis, at least we control for group times year fixed effect. So we allow for separate fixed effects for cosmetic year, let's say. So if innovation is if the ease of innovation is determined more or less with by the product group level, and then if that changes over years, that fixed effects absorbs that variation, and hopefully this concern will be alleviated. But still, as you said, we didn't include module specific module level fixed effects. And then I think the fact that this question keeps coming up about what, like the cost of claims overall, right? And then this cost of claims can come from either the cost of being certified or cost of innovation and things like that. I think we should have a better sense of how to address that question. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you.
So I guess since it's open to questions from everyone, I was actually surprised by the coconut, the horizontal analysis, Because
Mhm.
my understanding of where you were going, kind of starting with what is the expectation, was here's a differentiation claim. I'm going to show you that this differentiation matters based on competition in the marketplace, right? So I thought that was kind of your main thesis, although you didn't explicitly say that. So I would have thought any differentiation would also, so, if you think of where else is this applicable, I would think of this paper as being, let's take this and say, wherever any differentiation claim is coming into the market, you should see such a pattern. So I was actually surprised by the opposite findings you found for other, maybe those are older claims, or maybe they're very, like specific to certain markets. But I would have thought, let's say if you examine organic claims or something again, which has similar features to sustainability, you would see this kind of result holding, right? That's just like a broad picture comment for what you think.
Yeah, thanks for that. And then, yeah, we were also kind of surprised and kind of interested to see that these features don't show the same patterns. So when it comes to new claims, so charcoal is a relatively new ingredient that has been used a lot in these different product categories. So I specifically chose that one to see whether, these kind of early stage ingredients for claim show any different patterns. And then the answer is yes, they look different from any of these sustainability claims. So that's one thing. And I also, I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around this idea that whether a sustainable claim is just doing purely horizontal differentiation, or is it something else? So I think market competition can be, can trigger, firms investment, not just on horizontal differentiation, but also vertical quality investment, right? And then there are many theory papers that talk about how these firms respond both in terms of vertical quality and horizontal differentiation based on the competition. And I think the fact that we see these diverging patterns across sustainable claims and other features, it sort of hints that maybe this notion is kind of similar to vertical quality, not necessarily just horizontal differentiation. At least firms are perceiving these sustainable claims through that lens, but that's something that we are still talking about. Yeah. Yes, Wynn.
Hello. Sorry, my keyboard wasn't working. So I think one thing that it sounds like people are concerned about is, and exactly like you were talking about, is whether or not it's a vertical differentiation versus a horizontal differentiation. And one thing that you might be able to look into, and I haven't looked at the specific categories that you've looked at, but there is a manufacturing code that's embedded in the UPC. And so that's different than brands. And so like Dove may have a specific brand, but the manufacturer might actually manufacture multiple things or for different brands. And so in terms of costs and like how hard it is to differentiate in terms of like how hard it is to make something that is sustainable, I don't know anything about manufacturing, but something that maybe is a clean product versus not a clean product, if the manufacturer is the same, theoretically, the costs might be more comparable if the manufacturer is the same, but the branding is different. So you could look in your subset of products and see if that works, and you can address a lot of these questions. Since I know this is still very exploratory, it's just sort of like an idea, and I can tell you about the UPC codes that tell you. Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be super helpful, because yeah, we talked about adding this manufacturer level information because we also are aware that a lot of brands are manufactured by P&G or Unilever, all these like mega manufacturer brands, but at least I didn't know that Nielsen already has that code that is baked into their RMS data that signals manufacturer. So we were about to actually do some manual search of which brand is manufactured by which large manufacturer. But yeah, this is super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting because like some of these really big manufacturers also manufacture private label. So they manufacture both, which is pretty neat.
Awesome. Thank you.
Include me in that email too, please. I would like to learn.
So yeah, well, I might have missed this.
Yes.
Did you check whether the direction of correlation between HHI and the likelihood of providing a claim changes based on how dominant you are in that market?
So yeah, I kind of like hastily moved that part, and then I didn't run that exact regression that you mentioned, but I did it only in the I did that only in the pricing regression. So I think what you're saying is this type of analysis where whether these like large market share brands actually put, they have different likelihood claims, putting claims in response to HHI. So in a more concentrated market, are these larger market share brands more incentivized to put these claims for smaller ones and things like that? So yeah, as I go through the slides, I realize that this specification might benefit that likelihood of claim provision regression more than this pricing regression. So I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, also similarly, you can do something like based on the year of brand, based on the tenureship of the brand. So it's not only about market share, but also about how new the brand is to the market. And that kind of partly speak to that early new UPC / new product launching questions.
Right. So instead of just looking the UPC, the age of UPC, looking at the brand, the age of brands, and
yeah, instead of using market share, for example, in this specification, replace market share with the year of brand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just a kind of tidbit from the work that Tong and Jessica and I have. This aluminum-free thing that you mentioned is actually kind of a, I don't know, like, is it a vertical claim? So it's like essentially saying, hey, all the other deodorants are toxic. They use aluminum. We are aluminum-free, so we're not toxic. So, it kind of falls probably in the sustainable thing a little bit more. So it's, I don't know, I wouldn't call it like a horizontal claim, right? I don't know if Tom, you have any.
But I'm actually quite surprised to see the graph Yewon had. Like you're comparing across coconut and lavender and aluminum free. It goes completely in the opposite direction from sustainability claims. So do you consider aluminum free as one form of sustainability claim? That would be a relevant question.
I don't know.
It's also, I mean, like, to be fair, like, it's also like a very, like, in your sustainability claim, you have, I don't know, 40 different claims, right? Aluminum free is just one claim. So it's a much more noisy thing that you have. And
that's true.
Yeah, in our paper, we also see that it's largely, it's a new entrant, right? I think that's kind of also the question you were addressing, is these new entrants versus established products, how they. I think even coconut is probably like we use coconut and not any toxic things.
So quick comments from me. So many different results. I'm still wrapping my head around.
Yes.
A lot of them. I mean, very, very interesting. The two things that, and I haven't absorbed all of them. The two things that struck me as very interesting is the fact that the third-party verification result is there, but not the other way around. So it's sort of like the credible differentiating story. I think that's a really neat result. And it's almost sort of like if there is a criticism, well, I don't know, are all of the other claims, is this something like a menu that you can just pick and choose, essentially, like at the cost list, as a cost list option from firms, like the voluntary, not third-party verification?
So, yeah, we definitely, maybe this, I mean, since this is offline, maybe we can talk about this more frankly. So since we are trying to run, have a follow-up paper specifically about these, certifiers, like using certifiers to back up their claim. And since the regulations, the proposed regulations by EU talk about that aspect explicitly, we were thinking of writing a model, structural model, and then run some counterpatch analysis, which firm will be affected by the most by these new regulations if they are introduced in the market. So strategically, we're still debating how much of that certifier results we should include in this part 1 descriptive paper versus the second part. So that's just an high level.
So my worry is, and I think you would go a long way if you were to show that there are no systematic differences in the options that I can have theoretically across different categories, because right now that is a big confounder, right? Is something about the within the category competition that might be also related to to essentially pool of the options that I have within. If you were to make a claim that the pool of the options is the same across categories, then and the cost is similar, then I think this this concern is severely diminished from my perspective.
Thanks for that comment. And then I was also thinking just collecting some data on how many claims are available for each different categories or causes, and then that will kind of address your point, right? So if we see systematically larger number of varying claim certifiers, were just like varying claims within any different within product, maybe that means something. So I can definitely look into that.
So
and
coming
then
back to your example, which I kept on coming back to think, the Dove being the constant brand in the shampoos and in the deodorants. Now, what you're claiming is that it's the competition within the market that is driving what type of labels they might be choosing strategically to pick, but you need to also convince me that the options are equal, right? In a sense, like I have the same options, right? There isn't some other kind of omitted factor that is driving the choices that might be related to the category specifically.
Yes, so I forgot to mention that part, but I think I have two answers to your question. One, I agree, and then I think maybe it'll be easier for the audience to understand if I only focus on, sustainable packaging only. I think that may have less concerns when it comes to availability of different claims to be put on that, because you can only say it's recyclable or not, or it's like made out of recycled. So there are like only a handful of types of claims that you can make there. So we'll definitely do that. Let me just write it down.
Yeah, I would think that would be kind of narrowing down into that. It would be.
Yes. And then the second point is that when I ran this HHI level regression, one of the controls that I did put in was this number of unique UPCs in that given module. So that kind of captures like if the product module itself is inherently, calling for more variety or something like that, that will be captured by this number of unique UPCs within that module. So even after we control for that, like the unique number of UPCs, unique number of brands, things like that, we still see this robust correlation between HHI. So that's when we were a bit more, we were actually confident to say that this is not about the inherent variety seeking aspect within across different product modules. It's really about market concentration after that.
And then the last comment, and I'll shut up. And then
please.
That was the first of the ones that I tried to internalize that I found very interesting. The other one, coming back to Anita's point, I found it very interesting that the sustainability and the other horizontal claims go the opposite direction. So to me, it is something about targeting versus I do think there is something about the type of the characteristic that it is that more universally predicts the elasticity within the category, I would say, or so yeah, I would say that aspect was very intriguing, and I think there's something there. Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. Yeah, it's really nice to kind of get this feedback on high-level feedback on like which results stand out versus not, because as you said, Yura, this is like a whole lot of results just like being combined.
There's a lot of results.
Yeah, it's like all being bundled.
It's a good problem to have.
So yeah, but to come up with the final product, which is a paper, we sort of have to pick and choose which one to focus and which one to have in our appendix. So I think this kind of feedback is super helpful. So thank you for that.
Yewon, that's good. And by the way, thanks everyone for staying and kind of having a great discussion. This is super, super helpful, and for you, I think super interesting and super helpful for you, and I'm sure. Even quick things from Q&A, I think June we just jump off, but one he mentioned that not a lot of branded products are what's called OEM products. Actually, I think I Googled and I didn't know this term, and it's original equipment manufacturer. So you guys probably know more about this than I do, but I guess it will introduce some complications how to label this. And then this is kind of related to our previous discussion and how sustainability is different from other relevant features. But then a different question, I think is kind of a broader interesting topic, is how we think about decision making in this case. How much of this like parent chain individual stores, how much within the brand different product owners or product managers make decisions about this. I don't think we know that much about this, like P&G and other corporations like that. Like even within like they would own multiple brands, and within brand will be multiple teams. Just thinking through analytical evidence would be very helpful to interpret the results.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Yeah, we definitely, we should do some more work to think about how to understand these different layers of decisions. And then one thing we have to clarify is, like, as you said, like, we're the decision makers, and then when it comes to distribution decision, it's definitely not just like a one-party decision. Like, it's a combination of retail decision and then manufacturer's decision as well. So yeah, I think those are really good comments, and then we'll make sure to address that.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for joining. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.